Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Life in HD, where we invite special guests to come in and chat with us about human design in real life. And if you're new to this channel, I'm your host, Crystal Alferrero. I'm a human design guide and founder of the Human Design Academy. And today we're going to be talking about life as a manifestor and using human design to redesign your business and so much more with our very, very special guest, Elaine Kelly, who's a powerhouse 5/1 Splenic Manifestor, business mentor, and human design coach. Welcome, Elaine. How are you?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. That was a lovely introduction. I should be as articulate that myself when I come in and introduce myself. But no, I'm delighted to be here today for everyone, and particularly for all of us manifestors in the collective, and talking through our deconditioning journey and stepping up to lead in our power.
Amazing. So Elaine, could you please share with our audience a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Okay, so what I do now, what I do right now at this moment in time as the multi-passionate manifestor. So I am a business mentor and human design coach. So I've done my training with Crystal, which has been phenomenal. So I resisted doing human design training actually for ages, because when I began my journey of entrepreneurship, I was constantly studying. I've done so many courses. It's not even funny. And then when I actually really sat with my human design and I understood that I was the 5/1, I was like, no, I have to do this. This makes total sense. I'm going to trust that intuition and follow. And here I am. So I now do have my own business. I've been in business. This is my third year. I set up during the pandemic. I'd been in corporate my entire life beforehand. I worked in corporate and tech internationally, generally on kind of big kind of tech rollouts and startups. So scale, sustainability, et cetera, which when I learned my human design was actually all predestined. So I was really burnt out by this world and the pace that the corporate world lived in. And then I became to be like, there has to be more. And I went through, I suppose, a bit of a spiritual awakening in 2012. And then I was like, right, I want to go into the holistic space. And then this is what brought about my business, right? But the real merit goes to, I would say, definitely human design, in the sense that it helped me model my business. My first year in business was a shit show. Like, it was starting up during a pandemic. All I had done was kind of like events and retreats on the side. And then obviously in a pandemic, and in Ireland in particular, like, it was super strict. We weren't allowed to do anything. So it was like, what do I do online? Right. And I started creating all these things that like people were coming to me and asking for. Big mistake for a manifestor. Just because I can, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, really, like, I'm like, this is not bringing me joy. I felt like I was almost recreating my 9 to 5. I wasn't feeling that fulfillment. And I was also getting paid significantly less. Like I was, I left a 6-figure salary when I was like coming to follow my passion and my purpose. So yeah. So what I do now is actually an alchemy of both the spiritual world and the business world, in helping people follow their passion, come back to their true purpose, and build sustainable empires based on that. So like a nice blend of medicine of the spiritual side and the subconscious work and human design, and then actual systems and structures and strategies. So you can see my 5/1 is like lit to fuck now. It's like, woo, let's go.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can't wait to talk more about that, because, I also transitioned from the corporate to entrepreneurial space and struggled a lot with bringing those corporate habits and everything. Right. So I totally resonate with your story and everything that you've kind of gone through in terms of that transition from corporate to where you are now. But yeah, I guess before we get into that, because I know there's a lot to unpack there. How did human design find you on that journey?
It was somewhere during the pandemic. We were all online on this like big self-development journey, and someone would have sent on like the link, the way it's like find your chart. And if you're a manifestor, like you're a leader and you're meant to speak, et cetera. And when I read it, I was like, this makes sense. There's an element, right, of like, we've got the conditioned aspect and like all the self-worth stuff and all of these things, right? And I was like, but it really spoke to me on a deeper level, right? Because I've always known even like as a young girl, like the little sign that was like the definition of my name, Elaine, actually means like the light and to
Oh,
lead.
wow.
So obviously then I'm an Aries, Aries rising or sun. And so it's like, you know, there's so much fire in my chart and my being. And I'm here going, I always knew I was meant to do something huge on this earth, but I wasn't totally sure. You know, initially I thought that was in corporate. I was like, I'm going to pave the way for women. I'm going to be the CEO of a tech company. I'm going to change the fucking world. And the higher I climbed up that ladder, the more wrecked I became. And I was kind of going like, what am I even doing here? Do you know, I'm earning so much more money, but I was like, I have less and less time. And the freedom aspect for me as a manifestor became a really big, like kind of red flag, I suppose. So when I read the chart, I was like, oh, this makes sense. So I actually kind of started exploring it and then started going to get coaching sessions. And I've actually done so many trainings, like from obviously the line one, but people all over the world that were doing human design in terms of business and whatever. And then I was like, I have to get certified in this, because when I started introducing it to my programs and helping people develop business strategy to support their design, and I saw the transformation in them and the results in their business, I was like, I need to go deeper in order to facilitate this like on a way more deeper level for my clients, so they can build sustainable businesses. So you can definitely tell the 5-1, and you can see I have a left angle cross of limitation. So I'm all about sussing out, you know, what is sustainable? How can we expand? How can we grow this? But also really coming back to like our true nature of like having balanced living, right? So, you know, we have success without the stress.
Oh, amazing. I love what you do. We need more of that. We need more holistic business advice, holistic guidance, or business guidance, I guess, in that way. Definitely needed in just the society that we live in right now, and just kind of deconditioning from all that we've been taught. But I guess my question is, you know, what was the biggest challenge for you in your experiment, and in terms of like unlearning and having to ease into your manifestor design?
Oh, I think the rest cycles was definitely a challenging piece. Like, so like, obviously at the time I was really developing my channeling abilities as well. And I remember when I actually, so I kind of would have gone deep into human design and hypnosis at the same time. And when I became aware of how I was meant to operate as a manifestor, and that I work in urges, because sometimes I often felt like I was lazy. You know, people, but anyone that would listen to this are going to go like, what the hell? Everyone is like, oh, Elaine, you're such a powerhouse, right? But I am like on or off. My husband always describes me as like, I'm an iPhone, right? So I am like top performance, but when the battery is low, like you have moments left and then it's done. There is no turning back on. And that is actually how I felt like my entire life. And sometimes there's an element of society that like we feel like shameful around that. And I'm here going like, sometimes I want to be around people, sometimes I don't. And I used to think I was really, really hard on myself. So I think that was really the big hard piece to learn. And then obviously then that took me putting in boundaries and informing. And a lot of people didn't like that, right? And then obviously then me with an undefined emotional center. And I suppose all the conditioning we face as manifestors, it's kind of going like, you know, we want to avoid confrontation. We want to avoid the resistance. So like I was such a people pleaser. So there's a huge amount of like personal deep work that had to be done to kind of go like, all right, this is who the fuck I am. So you either like it or like, see you later. Yeah. I hope we're not cursing this actually. Are you allowed curse on YouTube?
I think it's fine. We're adults here. Right. It's so strange. Like I could not see you. I mean, knowing you at the stage you are right now, and, you know, having worked with you for the past couple of months, like I see you as such a powerhouse. Like I do not see you as this people pleaser. It's so like, it feels like it was, well, it seems like it's, you know, something that you've had to work on over time and like over, I don't know how many years or like, you know, what time frame that looked like for you, but was it natural for you to step into that manifestor energy? Like, did you identify with being a manifestor when you first came across human design at the beginning?
Oh, yes. Like, it's not a case of, like, even looking back, there was an element, right, of my transition from being in corporate to working for myself that shunned like the past version of myself, that I was like, oh, corporate was so the wrong path, et cetera, et cetera. However, it was completely part of my path. I actually was following my purpose. I do have a lot of line 3 in my profile as well. So like I was out experiencing, I was building, I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. And I always knew I was going to be here for big things. I always knew I was going to lead a different way, like deep down, but it was a matter of kind of getting more clarity on it, I suppose. And that's what human design really unlocked for me. It was like speaking to my soul going, hey, and through human design, it actually made me see that I was meant to go to corporate. I was meant to go and rise very close to the top and realize like, actually, this is so wrong. You can get to the top, but you will get to the top with massive sacrifice. And that wasn't the life I wanted to create for me or to have a family with or whatever. I was like, no. So I was like, find a new way. And I think the tools I've picked up along the way, I suppose, has really helped with that. So yeah, God, there is so much. And the people pleasing piece, yeah, like, I mean, with an undefined emotional center. And this is like, I think this has been a huge piece for me. Like we do avoid confrontation manifestors, right? From a very, very young age. And we've been brought up in a society where like, yeah, like I am very fiery. I'd say I'm like a walking trigger. And I used to avoid being that trigger. You just want to keep the peace. And then I'm like, no. So now I'm kind of going like, and I think in a corporate sense, when I look back on all of my testimonials on LinkedIn and people are like, Elaine's a fucking fire starter. She's a powerhouse. She brings such energy to a team. She moves projects to completion. So I was in alignment, right? But it was a matter of more like the rest piece was so gone. And I can see how other elements of my chart kept me there because I was committed to the cause at the time. But then when I realized that this actually wasn't sustainable, it was like a hard no. Single definition as well. I'm like, see you later. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Oh, and I totally see that. Like you have your conscious sun in gate 42, bringing things to completion, growth, and and I feel like you can kind of apply that to so many things, like in whatever stage you're in. Did you also find that theme kind of play out in your personal life as well, in terms of like ending chapters, starting new ones, and like kind of feeling like you've lived so many lives?
Yeah. I have lived so many lives. I mean, I've lived all over the world. I've lived in China.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I've lived in Fiji, Singapore, Myanmar. In terms of relationships as well, like, I wouldn't have been a super relationship person. And actually, it was only when I started studying definition and single definition, and the fact that like we're very whole on our own. We don't need anyone else's energy to complete us. And all the time, like when I dated back in the day, so my longest relationship was 6 months before I got married, before I met my husband, and we're together 7.5 years. And he sometimes is like, he actually is kind of going like, I need to watch out, right? Like, and I remember actually one of the first things I ever said to him, I was like, I want you, I do not need you. And he actually is a manifestor as well, which I discovered. And he also has single definition. So he doesn't impose on my energy. And I think that's why we work so well together when we inform each other. And yeah, so it's just such a gift. I think for anyone here that I'm like, just go, the deeper you go in your chart, the deeper peace and joy that you'll bring in your life,
Yeah. And what's your favorite part about being a manifestor, if you had to choose one? You don't have to choose, actually. You don't have to choose one. It's funny. Whenever I ask my daughter that question, she's like, both, everything.
I know. I love being a manifestor, and I love, but like, it's like anything, like we're always like, the grass is always greener, right? And there's elements of me sometimes that I wish I was a manifesting generator, because I wish I had that ability to like have all the ideas and initiate and the sustainable energy. But I've really come to have that compassion for myself and for like, just in terms of our work. I think anyone who's non-sacral being, so like you as a projector, me as a manifestor, the reflector, that part of our gift here in life is mastering energy. Like, and I see that has come through in a theme throughout my work throughout the years. I'm always like, how does energy work in terms of, shifting energy with oils, or how, like, building in rest, building in fun, right, into our lives. And so I think I love that aspect now, because we get to experience duality, and I love the initiation piece. And this is what I really want to emphasize for anyone who's a manifestor. We've a defined throat. Our gift is our voice. And for so long, like, you know, I've worked for celebrities, I've worked, you know, big brands globally. I have no problem getting up and talking on a stage in the past, like if I was educating, right? But coming into business and standing up as myself, as Elaine, as essentially Elaine, as a mentor, as whatever, was just so, yeah, it was a bit scary, right? Because you're opening up this other vulnerable side where I'm talking about like my flaws and my weaknesses and my journey and, you know, being vulnerable, and it's scary as fuck. But the more and more I stood into the power of that, I was like, wow. And then the biggest realization is that like, we are not the end-to-end people. Like, we're not here to bring someone on this journey. And I know I do have the gate of completion, which I have to be mindful of as well, but that's, and how to use that. But for manifestors in general, saying one sentence to someone when you buy a coffee on them could change the trajectory of their life. That is the simplicity of like our power, you know? And it's the real key thing is, I think, in this, to see that gift that we have is healing that martyr aspect of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one that needs to be slaving away and give all of ourselves in order to make change. Like, that's not true.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And there's just something about the manifestor energy. I actually had a business, like one-to-one yesterday with the manifestor who was like almost completely defined except for the sacral. And you could just tell there's just this, like, you know, when a manifestor steps into their power, steps into that, you know, I'm here, like, you know what I mean? Really embraces that, you can feel it, and it feels motivating. It makes you feel like, and speaking as a projector, that for me, like, I have a completely open heart. I have undefined throat, a lot of openness. There's just something about working with manifestors and being in manifestor presence that makes you want to like do more, makes you want to, you know, reach for more. Right. And I really love and appreciate the manifestor energy. And so I wanted to kind of shift gears now and talk a bit about business and how, you know, how human design really helped you in terms of deconditioning from moving into corporate or leaving corporate and into entrepreneurship. I know you mentioned that you had some challenges around that, but what were those challenges?
Okay, right. So one, I think being in servitude over service was a huge thing. And I think in the element of like, I was actually saying this on a training yesterday, because I was kind of going like, you know, it was in getting clarity on our vision of what we want to do is like super important. And I think, and this is why now I'm like, anyone that I work with, I'm like, I'm doing your blueprint, because it helps me be a better mentor and coach to guide them on their path, right? And activate that higher timeline. And I think doing business, the challenges I would face, I was unaware of the whole fact that like, I'm here to initiate. I was unaware of the fact that like, I get bored as fuck, right? In terms of, I hate doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Freedom is incredibly important for me. The rest piece. So like for me, what I was like, okay, I'll do a few retainers for clients and I'll help them with certain things. I was doing like ritual boxes. I was also doing like my doTERRA business essentials. I was doing 1,000,001 things. But it was more so like, because we were so constricted in an environment, right? And obviously I didn't understand anything about alignment or whatever. And I was like, oh, and then I just couldn't understand why sometimes I had energy and sometimes I didn't. And then slowly I started to become like, yeah, I was getting like angry and frustrated with shit. I'm here going like, oh my God, this is not moving. And also, if I couldn't see the scale, right? So like, I'm not here to help one or two people. I'm here to help the masses. And I felt like I was like, where's the scalability in this business? And I was like, you know, I was like, right now, I was like, my time is just being taken and I don't have much more time to give. And I actually was kind of going like, God, this is not what I wanted. So that was a real big lesson. I remember actually doing a session with a coach and she was like, Elaine, you are the secret sauce in your business. I just recorded a podcast on this yesterday because it was like such a pivotal moment for me. Yeah. And this is back to, right, well, for anyone obviously can be giving this wisdom or calling out your blind spots, like, and this is the power of like being in a mentoring or coaching space. But the initiation there for me was like, God, you're playing small. There's an element of, right, there's like back to like this subconscious thing of kind of going, oh, it takes time to figure out what you're doing in business, or it takes time to like earn profits and you don't make any money in your 2 years. These are all things I'd heard. And that was a load of shit. So I literally burnt it down. And I was like, right, I was like, I am calling in my higher self here. And I really started to work with that. And I looked at like, I was like, I want to do a podcast. I was like, I want to do a podcast. And this is back to like, you know, using my voice. My voice is my gift.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I was like, there was an element actually as well. This is another key thing back to like belief and what's going on subconsciously. Because I was like, when I get to 7 figures, I'm going to run a mastermind. Right.
Yeah.
And then again, my coach is like, Elaine, you worked for a wellness brand and you were doing 100K in sales a month for them, you know, on Kajabi with an online program, whatever. Why the fuck do you feel like you need to do it again for yourself to prove? Right. So this is the element, you know, the weakness, the shadow side of that line 1 as well, as in like, do I know enough? Do I know enough? Do I know enough?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even a belief in myself. I knew, obviously, I know I'm great at this, but it was, I don't know, there's an element of me going, I need to go deeper. I need to go deeper, whatever. So then I really worked on developing my channeling abilities. And I was like, right, let's remodel a show.
Mm-hmm.
How can I create something so different? And honestly, yeah, it was a game changer. And then, yeah, you can ask me more questions this actually, because I could go off on a tangent on like what I did.
Yeah. I mean, I totally see that in you have gate 48. Let's see, I forget. Oh yeah. So you have gate 48 in your conscious and unconscious self notes. But yeah, like totally getting depth in everything, spending a lot of time, maybe feeling like you don't know enough. You're not skilled enough. You're not, talented enough. And so how did human design at all help you in terms of, moving through that belief, moving through that block?
Oh yeah. I think it was an element of, receiving my own medicine of like, I'm here going like, you know, it was like back when I would have run events in corporate, I'm kind of going, no one ever knows what you had planned that you didn't get to execute. Like, and that can be the same, like in running like a cacao ceremony or anything. But in terms of the information, I know that as in like my depth is like a gazillion times deeper than like, you know, people are only coming into this maybe for the very first time. And so now I really sit with that. And also if I find that I'm kind of like, feel like I'm causing resistance from myself, I will go and I'll read all my testimonials for my programs, because everyone's like, this is like 10 times more than what you said it was. Like, you're an absolute wizard. I don't understand how you know so much about all these different things, and like blew my mind. And I go back to time and time again, because there's so much, there's almost sometimes too much. So like kind of like looking at kind of going, is that line 1 causing maybe a pattern of over serving? And then I just rewrite it through hypnotic track. Literally anything that I'm working on, I record into a track and I'm like playing in my ears. I'm just kind of going, and it gets me moving faster.
Ooh, love it. Do you do this in your work for your clients?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Oh.
So because of the 5-1, right, I see so much patterning. So I do like pre-recorded tracks that work on specific areas that I see as common problems in the collective.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do work on an individual level as well.
Oh, that's really cool. Are there any
human
other?
design has also been a game changer for that.
Yeah. Oh, it like works so well together, because with the chart, it's like you can identify what those blocks are, and then adding on that level with the different tools, like with the hypnotic tracks. Is there anything else that you use in your work? Like any other tools?
For me, well, it's obviously all the education. So like I say, like my masterminds or programs they're a blend of like lots of stuff, like strategic tools, but actually practical trainings and how to execute, like how to create automation or all of these types of things. So for me, like my approach for all businesses is creating your business as an ecosystem, like moving away from the shit of like, oh, I've got a business and this is what I sell, and here's my Instagram channel. And like, we just, no. So, and I think it's the benefit is because I obviously worked at such scale. Like say when I was in Asia, like a launch was like, our target was like 1 million subscribers in 1 month.
Oh my God.
Customers. Like it was mega, mega, mega. Right. So it was learning like, is it like how all the parts all fit together to build momentum. And so this is something that I kind of really focus on for all design types, that we change our mindset in terms of how we're doing our business and having that system and foundation to support anything that we decide to like birth into this world and change our approach to creation. So I think a lot of the tools are kind of like more introspective, like getting to know ourselves. So the human design The hypnosis, the essential oils are like really the kind of real core kind of deeper stuff. And then I do a lot of good like workbooks, asking the awkward questions that we don't ask ourselves. So it's like developing self-mastery, which is obviously the principle of human design as well.
Yeah, a lot of like awareness work, self-awareness work. And even just that alone is powerful. Like becoming aware of what those, I'm going to say like, I don't like using the word self-sabotaging patterns, but I mean, just those self-limiting patterns, right? That we take on.
Oh, and we all do it, like every next level of growth, like something else will come up. And I was actually with my Chinese acupuncturist the other day, and she was like, we always have the deepest chats. And I was kind of like, or whatever I said to her. And she was like, awareness, when you become aware of a problem, you are 50% healed. And I was like, wow,
that's deep.
I know, but like, if you think for anyone, right, that like, you know, that you give a human design reading to, right. And it's like, and this is what I hear from people all the time. It's like they feel seen for the very first time. And it creates this deeper level of like self-acceptance and compassion for ourselves, which I just think is amazing, you know? And like, I don't know, I'm just so grateful to have trained with you actually, and like be able to give this work to people as well, like in general to the public, but also bringing it then back into the business aspect, because, you know, we all get so bogged down in this whole like, oh, we have to follow this strategy and use these hashtags and all this kind of shit, right? And like what we're creating is like this complete new way of business. And if I'd say now my second year in business was like, it's just insanely different in terms of, you know, I wasn't stressed. I felt my self-theme of peace, like all the time. You know, okay, obviously you have the odd day where you're kind of going like, oh my God, what the hell? Like, when's this going to happen? I really practice patience for myself as a manifestor. But to see, like, I went from kind of going, felt like I was hustling. And that's why I was like, no, this is not what I'm here for. To be like kind of going, oh my God, I just did a 10K launch. And that was really easy. Like straight off the bat, relaunched my business. And then I was like kind of going, this is alignment. And this is the magnetism that we talk about. And it is so possible. And we all need to start embodying our design in our business.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about that relaunch. Like, I know you mentioned before you were kind of like doing all the things and you were, I guess, you know, struggling with the rest aspect and the cycles and stuff like that. So how did you use human design to redesign your business and relaunch it? Like what was different the second time around?
The second time around, informing was a huge piece. So I don't think anyone would kind of go, oh, I completely, like, as in like I burnt it down and started it from scratch or whatever. Like there's an element where I was kind of going, because I was doing work that I didn't even advertise on my social media. So there's an element of, I'm kind of going like, you know, this is going to be my focus from now for the time being. And I kind of went into a bit of a hibernation period over the Christmas. And in that time, I just took people behind the scenes, informing. I cannot express how vital informing is for, like, it's just so effective. So I take them behind the scenes, and then I'm here going like, oh my God, I finally got the name for my mastermind, or I'd show a bit of behind the scenes kind of thing. And this is my vision. I'm here going like, you know, I'm not fully clear. I don't know, but I just feel like there's a new way for women to be doing work that we're wealthy and we're healthy. Like, I mean, why do we have to sacrifice? And I think there's an element of, obviously as well, because I sacrificed, you know, I was really kind of this mentality before of like the conditioning from corporate. It's like, oh, when I have this, I'm going to be this person, I'm going to do these things. And I was like, no, I'm actually going to be this person now, you know? And so that was a real core part. And then for me, then I was looking at, I'm kind of going like, right, I need high ticket. So actually what I channeled through, and this is when you create that space to rest as a manifestor, you get all of your gold. Like we think it's unproductive, but like some of the stuff that like really channeled through to me, it was like game changing. So like I developed this like chakra abundance pyramid for like how we actually activate wealth in our lives. So like focusing on what offers, like based on, like I say, our root chakra, et cetera, et cetera. I'd have to visually show you to kind of comprehend it. But it's like, it was taking like Maslow's hierarchy of needs and overlaying the chakra system on it to like, you know, because if our income is like, you know, 2K, then 10K, then 20K, then 4K, you know, like our central nervous system is all over the shop, and we're not actually getting out there to deliver like our higher purpose work and like really coming in and like creating from our heart space. So it's like, how do we tackle this? Right. So for me, then it was like, right, my masterminds, my programs, my memberships are my core offerings. And I was like, I do not have the energy to sustain this at a group level, like 12 months of the year. So what am I going to do? So I ran 2 of them. And then I created an evergreen version of the program, which I'm actually just relaunching again next week because I've changed platform and I've so much more wisdom since then, having done it, that I'm like, I need to add in more. And there's an element of me going, is this the shadow of my line 1 here now? Going like, it needs to be, the perfectionist piece. But I was like, no, I was like, because I have a whole different energy, right? Because I've really, and that's why I was like, I'm going to study human design and bring it in more because it works. Like it works. Has worked for me. It's worked for all of my clients. And I want to amplify that a little bit further. So I think, for manifestors, freedom is incredibly important, and it's not exchanging time for money. So evergreen, I'm like doing my pre-recorded hypnotic tracks. Like I love the fact that I can create something really transformative and powerful, and it can help people all over the world, but like, I don't have to physically be there.
Yeah.
That has been huge for me. So they're kind of like the real core aspects. Automation and having the systems and technology in place then to support that is huge. So everything for me is like interconnected. And then launching my podcast, also game changer. Yeah. Using my voice and really seeing the feedback from that and kind of going like, oh my God, business could actually be this simple. It doesn't need to be super complicated, but like, I'm all for like some funnels and all this kind of stuff, but like, when we're really just like in alignment and getting to that stage that we're like magnetic, like it does the work for us. We just get to show up and have fun and be ourselves and share our knowledge. Like it's great. And you get fucking paid for it to develop yourself.
It's so true. Like human design gives you that, I'm going to say like that path to just throw out the rule book and really just choose what feels good to you. I remember when I first started my business as well, like I overcomplicated everything. I thought I had to have an email list, multiple social media platforms, and, have this core offer and all of these different things. I didn't even give myself that time to like experiment first and try to figure things out. I'm of course like a 1-3, so I need to actually experiment and do things and give myself that permission. And I didn't even realize that until human design came along. I didn't have that awareness, and I was just kind of copying and doing everything else. And we fall into that same pattern. But I love that, you were able to, and it's not like you didn't know about funnels before. It's not like you didn't know about these systems before, but I feel like human design, it kind of gives you that focus and that discernment, or that it helps you build that discernment for yourself.
Yeah, no, it guides you to, well, as in like when you look at your strategy, like your actual business strategy now to support your human design and staying in your self-theme, like, it's just like, it's like, this is the standard. Like, this is like, we're not going into our misaligned self. And I think when you do all this work to decondition, the last place, anything that robs that sense of peace is just too expensive, And I do obviously think as well, there's the element of like patience. I always say this, that like, as in like, you can tell this is like, was almost like my Achilles heel for a long time, but understanding as well particularly for manifestors, we work at lightning speed when we work. So I'm here going like, relax, enjoy. If you want to sit and watch Netflix all day, or you want to go off on a holiday, like go for it. And what I've seen, right, as in like the proof, and I think a real important thing, right, for us, like, because I do so much work with people on subconscious, is showing proof for our subconscious, right? Because then it helps us like, really embody that and like be able to step up and create more change. Because our body, like our mind just wants to keep us safe all the time. So I'm here kind of going, so I did this kind of deep dive into a review of my business for 2022. And I looked at like my highest cash months were when I was traveling and I was working on the move.
And I was like, to do that.
And I was like, shit, I need to book another trip.
Yeah.
Whereas before we have this whole view of kind of going, oh my God, if you want to be successful, you need to be working hard, you need to be putting it all in. That's just a little shit.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I need to do that deep dive and see, like, compare with what I was doing during those higher cash months. than the others.
Yes.
That'd be really interesting. But yeah, what would you recommend to someone that is starting their business online, or like maybe rebuilding their business, kind of like what you went through as well? Where would you start in terms of learning human design and how to apply that?
Well, I'm going to repeat your wisdom here now, Crystal, and say, follow your strategy and your authority. I think, and this actually, so when I was redeveloping my main signature mastermind, right, I was almost overcomplicating it, going like, no, each type needs to understand this. And I only followed my strategy and authority for the first year, I'd say, before I was even looking at like gates and channels and definition and all this kind of stuff, right? So I think like that's like the number one place to start. And like the informing piece for manifestors is obviously huge, right? The same for you is like waiting for the invitation. And I've seen this like with several clients, like they'll come and they'll have been with some coach that's like, you know, I know we've talked about this before, like get in, so go in and into someone's DMs and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh God. But for a projector, right, that's so damaging because like you are not getting recognition. And then it's like, hello, self-sabotage. Like that's absolutely shit all over my self-worth right here. And like, and then this wound is created that like, that like prevents you from really stepping up to feel seen. Right. And like the recognition piece is so important. So I'm going to go like, but it's huge, right? Because we are so impatient. So like patience is not something that I'm sure actually maybe you can tell me in this, because like, it's not just like a manifestor thing for you, right? You have to be patient to wait for the invitation and focus on mastering your skills.
Yeah, totally have to. And actually that's what I notice. It's like when I start to get so fixated on, whatever that end goal is, that's when I start to feel urgent and, maybe try to do more or take on more. And it's when I notice that I can let it go and I can shift my focus on like either optimizing the program or just continuing to serve my clients, studying, rejigging the program, and not even spending that much time on marketing. Like I feel like with the upcoming round of our reader certification, I didn't really do much promotion aside from like email list and like maybe the workshop. And yeah, it didn't feel like icky to me. Like if I had, maybe followed someone else's advice around going into the DMs, doing that, showing up on Instagram stories like every day. And for me, like, to each their own, it's fine. Like there's no wrong thing or bad thing. It's just, it's not for me. And yeah, trusting that is what got me to, again, continue to trust myself and see that results can still come, even if I'm not forcing myself to do what other people tell me to do.
Yes. And I think, I don't know if do you have a results folder?
I don't have a results folder, but I do go back to my testimonial. Actually, okay, I guess you could say my results folder is almost like my testimonial collection.
Yeah.
That I
have. So I have the result, like my testimonial forums and Google Forms, whatever. But I also am always like, for all design types, like not just projectors, is to have a results folder that you're screenshotting. So every day you're probably receiving some sort of thing going like, oh my God, this is amazing, blah, 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 that you're putting in. And it's like, because again, it's creating that subconscious proof. I even screenshot, sometimes I'll go into my Kajabi, and like the other day, I'm like, I had 10 sales when I was like in my Kajabi for passive stuff while I was out hiking. And I'm showing my subconscious going, you make money when you rest. Resting is safe. And then for those times where you're maybe kind of going like, oh my God, what am I doing? Or, you're having a hard time, which, and that happens like generally when we're tired or like sometimes in our winter phase. Yeah. It's like the ego comes in, and then we can just, it's like literally just look at this and like shut it down. As a good kind of embodiment technique.
Oh yeah. I've definitely experienced that, where it's like, I noticed that the sales come in when I am out with my family for the weekend, and I don't even like realize that I've made sales until I come back and like open my computer on Monday morning. Right. Yeah. Or just some kind of pattern like that. And that really taught me that it's like, whenever you feel too fixated on something or attached to something, it's that signpost to release it, let it go, and shift your focus to something else at that time. Right.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, launching something and then constantly like refreshing your inbox and checking how many people like landed on your website or liked your post or whatever. is bananas. And like what we're communicating to the universe, right, is fear, is in like, we're not fully actually trusting. And so like, and we need to like completely detach from that. And so that's why I'm like, lean into the proof that you have from previous times. And it's like, not, I mean, sure, Jesus, you've got me, you've got you, you've got everyone else coming on for the interviews. It's like, embodying your human design in your business, like works. And the thing is, the problem with society is that like, we are not used to success without sacrifice, I think is a really big thing. And that's also a load of shit. Like, do you know what I mean? And like, we are like proven point. And that's not to say like, I would say the hard part is the deconditioning. It's sitting and looking at your shadow and going like, oh my God, why am I doing that? Oh my God, I told you it was people pleasing here and avoiding confrontation or whatever, but like giving yourself that compassion. And when we alchemize that shadow, we will, like, things do get to be easy, and it should be easy, and we should be able to enjoy that and celebrate it.
Yeah. And I feel like one thing that human design does, especially with, your strategy and authority, it really does get to be that simple in terms of applying it to business. Just understanding your type, your energy type, your aura type, your strategy and authority is all you need.
Yeah.
It's really all you need, even if you don't go into anything else. And like,
I had an example of the strategy and authority piece, actually. Like, so how are you making decisions? And there's something the other day, anyway, someone sent me this email and they were looking for something, and my spleen was like, no, run, get out of here, right? But my ego was like, oh, but be nice and whatever. And I'm gonna go like, and I had this little battle for a moment. And then I was like, no, I was like, when you haven't listened to your spleen in business, even though sometimes it doesn't make logical sense, you've been burned, right? And, something has come that is taking you out of alignment. And the cost of being taken out of alignment is sometimes too great, right? Like it can completely it could take ages to get back there. So I'm always like, like really like lean in and trust and practice with that in your business with small things. And then the bigger things become easier. And then the last piece I think would be, like looking at your incarnation cross when you're but I think actually at the start, even I think it is really important, your incarnation cross, and then your conscious sun and earth gates and unconscious sun and earth gates, because it's a huge part of like, helping you to cast the bigger vision. So when I do, like, say I just did my vision board for 2023 after the Human Design New Year. I'm like, forget about freaking 1st of January now. And I really sat with my chart again, like always coming back, because more and more, it's like you get more remembrance every single time. And I'm like, how can I set the vision bigger for my business this year? Do you know? And how can I set the goals, and like, what do I desire more of? Right. And then like, how can I bring in more freedom into my business? Is that like through support or whatever? And then obviously you're using your authority then to kind of tune and go, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
Yeah. I'm feeling so empowered by you, Elaine, just like chatting with you right now. So yeah, I guess like for anyone that's listening, how can they work with you? Is there anything that you're offering right now that can help them realign, redesign their business?
Well, of course, there is evergreen and there is live programs. So I have Empress, which is your ecosystem blueprint. And that is like the evergreen version of my mastermind. And that will go into how to build a business that is aligned for you, for your human design. But it will really do a lot of the deep work on like your belief system. We do a lot of things on like mastering your energy in terms of like your human design, but like cycle syncing, like getting really in touch with your intuition. So it's like, for me, I'm like, it's a balance of like uniting the masculine and feminine. I know sometimes it doesn't even translate into any sort of marketing context, but like, it is so powerful of kind of going like, okay, this is what I'm being guided to do. And then here's the plan. So I teach all like the strategy, all the systems, like all the training is there as well. So like, if you want to like figure out how to set up automation or how to launch a podcast, they're all there as well in the vault. So that's evergreen. You can enroll in that like all year round. And then I have the SAS Collective Mastermind, which is like the live version of that. And that runs in April and September. So twice a year. Again, aligned with the freedom in my strategy. Summers, I don't do live group work. And then I have Manifesto, which is a new mastermind specifically for manifestors in terms of building an aligned business. And because I wanted to go deeper, obviously it's 5-1, into like this, the hypnosis and all this, you know, and the deconditioning aspects that we do, and kind of models, I suppose, and strategies that have worked for me in building my business and building my revenue and building recurring income in my business. That helps me kind of like, you know, go through those rest cycles, because we know if we resist the rest cycle, the urge doesn't come. And then lastly, like my online store has like hypnosis tracks and all this kind of stuff as well. But I have hypnosis tracks in all of my programs as well, because people love lying down and receiving for 40 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's kind of like, I'm here like, do the workbook. No, like, you know, I'll do it next week, but they'll like, it's so, because it uses binaural beats as well. Like the change is like on so many levels. And like, then basically people will start doing the work more, and they start actioning, and they make decisions from their higher self and not like the shadow side. And it just really helps amplify all the results of my program. Actually, I do them for group programs as well.
Oh, amazing.
There's your initiation.
I think so. I think I'm going to have to talk to you about that after we got off this call, but yeah. So I'm going to leave Elaine's information in the description for everyone down below. I don't want you to have to like explain where to find you. I feel like it's always just easier. Like I'll put it down in the description so you can find her and connect with Elaine. But I guess to wrap things up for today, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to offer to any manifestors in terms of living their highest potential of their design, especially if there's someone that, you know, feels very much stuck and trapped and not in their power?
Just do it.
Yeah.
Just take the action. I would, if someone's feeling stuck, I would say, like, I remember this for me, it was huge when I was kind of going, oh, what am I doing? I'm all these things. And it's talking, right? I want to visualize this. Like, this isn't like a super motivational quote or anything, but it's more cool. I know we've talked about this in our sessions, and like our throat center, like our voice is our power. And I remember I went to an energy worker who didn't know anything about human design. And she was like, you're not using your voice. She's like, this is what my guides are telling me. And I'm her kind of going, and it's funny. And this is also why I think human design is really powerful, because the logical mind can shut some of the spiritual stuff off. And I'm her going like, all right. And she was like, when you start using your voice, everything will come, everything will make sense. Because sometimes we're here like, oh, what's my vision? And we expect this huge, big thing, right? And like, we're not going to be given the entire thing. Like, you know, our blueprint is a guide, but, you know, it's sometimes it's like breaking those goals down a bit smaller. So it's like, what's the next step? So if we've to imagine that we're not using our voice and we're just here, like staying quiet, whatever, like our whole system is overworked, it's totally in stagnation. Yeah. So of course you're fucking stuck, right? So it's like, imagine a pressure cooker, and like by talking, you release the valve and all the steam will just explode out, and then everything starts working again, right? And this is how we unstick ourselves, really, beyond like, obviously, like talk to a coach or a healer or a mentor or something as well. But like, for you to really understand, for all manifestors, that if we're not using our voice, we are going to block ourselves continuously. So maybe that's like not straight off launching a podcast. So what I did was like start voice recording, voice journaling. So using an Otter app, like it's free. You can, and just talk into it, talk out loud, or else read what you've written out loud. And because the voice then alchemizes, it's shifting energy in the body. So, or singing. Like, you know, go sing in your car and stuff. You know? And I think that's a good step to get unstuck, like from a real energetic level.
Yes. Oh, I love everything that you're saying, Elaine. And yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time anymore. I know we've gone on for a bit, but I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you
for sharing your energy with us, your manifestor energy with us.